Hello everyone. Make a short recording here for the Excel spreadsheet project that I'm asking you to do in Unit 3, Section 1. Alright, I have the data as a spreadsheet, so you can download that. I will do that in a minute. If you don't have a Windows computer, if you have an Apple computer, there's ways to open it if you have the Apple version of Excel on there. You can also do this in Google Sheets or in Microsoft Excel Online. If you need to copy into a Google Sheet, you might want to use this text file and copy and paste into there. All right. So the whole idea for this project is to get some exposure to spreadsheets. That's one. All right. Those are very useful to use in math sometimes, and also just in everyday life. All right. Comes up in jobs quite a bit. But that's a good lead into what's called function notation. So we talked about functions at the end of covered functions at the end of Unit 2. All right. And then talked about the domain and range and inverses, but we did not use function notation. All right, and we're going to get to that a little bit in class here today. I'm just going to flash over to my OneNote notes here. There's some built-in commands that we're going to use, and I'll have a couple of them when we get to the spreadsheet in a minute. One of them being the sum command, the average command. There's some other ones on the screen here that are useful for statistics, for instance, the median, the standard deviation. There's lots and lots of built-in commands for Excel. We're going to scratch the surface of using those. All right, one thing I just want to point out to you, if you go to MyECC, so if you don't have Excel on your device, okay, if you're working on a laptop computer, if you don't have one, maybe try to get somewhere that has it, all right, but if you sign on online somewhere, and this could be on a Chromebook even, all right, go to MyECC, open up your OneDrive, I already have that open, go to the app launcher in the upper left, the little waffle in the upper left there, and then open up Microsoft Excel Online. So I'm going to use the desktop version. I do have it'll look like this. This is the web-based version of Microsoft Excel, very similar to Google Sheets. All right, again, I'm going to be using the desktop version because I have it on my computer, but we could have just as well opened the file once you download it using the web version. So you'd go to File, Open, and then I would go down to the bottom, open files from this device, and then find the file that you downloaded in your downloads folder. All right, so again, can do it online. I'm going to choose to do that using the web-based version. All right, now I'm not going to get to this file likely in this video. I want to do some very basics with Excel. So again, there's lots of uses for it. I've got it in my second tab here. If you were planning a vacation and you want to look at several different options, and I did this for a trip my family took last summer, comparing driving to certain locations versus flying, types of hotels or Airbnbs or whatever you might be staying at. But it'd be good to just be able to take these values and just add them up quickly for both or your one or two or three options. We're going to not do that, but we'll learn how to use some of these commands. All right, so for instance, I'm going to compute this, pretend you're an instructor like myself and say you gave 5 exams this semester. We're only having 4 in our course, our MT125 course, but you wanted to average up to find the average for the class or for each individual student. So we'll do the individual students first, and then we'll talk about the class average after. So for instance, this is student number 1, this is student number 2 in the second row, etc., etc. All right, so we want to add these up. Now, to compute an average of 5 numbers, what we could do is, I'm going to use, whenever you're doing a formula in Excel or a computation, you absolutely have to start with an equal sign. That is a very big key. Put an equal sign first. Now I'm going to start a left parenthesis. And you can either type or click on the cells we want to add up. So it's in cell A2. So you notice for any spreadsheet, whether it's an Excel sheet or Google sheet, the columns are lettered, the rows are numbered. So we're going to do cell A2. Then we're going to do plus. And you can either, again, type in just B2 with no spaces or click on the cell with your mouse. Hit another plus sign. Click on that cell. Hit another plus sign. Left click on this cell. Another plus sign, and again, either type in E2 or click on that cell. Now we're going to close the parentheses and we're going to hit a backslash for division on our keyboard and then divide by 5. And whether this uppercase, lowercase, it's got everything highlighted for us there. There's our average. Okay, now that's all well and good, but we wouldn't want to have to type that formula back in, and we don't have to. Excel will for the next student, Excel will redo the calculation if we do the following. Click on the cell that you made the formula in. So G2 is my cell. Now, when we go to the lower right corner, you'll notice this plus sign, this little white plus sign turns into a black plus sign, and then we're going to left click on our mouse, drag it down. All right, and it's going to repeat that calculation for each individual row. So if I click on, say, the 6th row here, if we look up here in the command line, it says equals parentheses A6 plus B6 plus C6 plus D6 plus E6, all divided by 5. That's computing the average. Okay, and I did something incorrectly there, so let me just undo that to fix it. So that's one way. We kind of built the formula in. Another way to do this would be to use the average command, which is built in to Excel. Now, if I do, again, starting with an equals, start typing the word average, A-V-E, and then you'll see average here. You can either finish typing the word average and then do a left parentheses. That's one option. Or you can double click on the function average that's built into Excel, and it'll finish typing the rest of it in for you. And then if we left click, hold down, and drag across, it'll fill in the symbols for us, and they're what we need, A2 colon E2, or we could type it also, A2, hit a colon, so shift and then the button next to L on your keyboard, and then E2, close the parentheses, it'll compute the average. Notice we're getting the same number, and then we can apply the same trick, go to the lower, click back on the cell we made the formula in, go to the lower right corner, drag it down. You got to be careful with this. Okay, I'm just going to show that again. You can't just click here. If I click there, it does nothing. You have to go on the cell you made the formula, go to the lower right corner, and make sure you're seeing the black little plus sign there. Then you're going to left click with your mouse, hold it, and drag it down. Sometimes this can be touchy. All right, and we're getting the same value that we did by kind of forcing Excel to do the average by us typing in the formula for the average. Okay, so there's a couple of nice uses for it. Again, you could do repeated calculations across rows. We can also do repeated calculations across columns. So for instance, if I wanted to, if I'm teaching this course, I want to know what my average was on my first exam, we would just do equals average. Clicked off the cell accidentally. Equals average. Again, you can just double click. So click right here twice, left click twice. And now we're going to go up and highlight. So left click, hold down, and drag the cells we want to average up. And it's from A2 to A17. So there's 16 students in that class. So that's the class average or mean for the first exam. And then we can do the same thing across the rows. If I want to get the average for class average for exams 2 through 5, we're going to go back to the cell. We single clicked on the cell just right in the middle where we made the formula. Then we're going to go to the lower right corner until we see the black plus sign, and we're going to drag that across. And it'll repeat the calculation for you there. All right, again, there's other built-in commands like the median is a different measure of center. So if we did median and then A2 colon A17, I'm just typing it so I don't have to scroll up. It's got all of the first exam's median there. If I click off the cell, press enter or tab, then it'll compute the median. Now, if I want to redo that for each class, we pull the same drag over game we've been playing here. So just go back to the cell you made the formula, go to the lower right corner, drag it across. Okay, let's just do one more just to get a little, or two more, maybe get some practice. I'm going to do the minimum and the maximum. So the min, I clicked off accidentally, MIN. Again, you can double click on the built-in function. Again, you can either highlight the cells, single click left and hold, drag it down. I didn't go far enough. All right, so I got to fix that. I want to go to 17. I'm just using my keyboard to do that. It'll tell us the lowest score for exam 1 for each one of those. Again, we'll drag it over. And similar for max. I keep on accidentally clicking off of here or hitting shift or something. So again, we're going to do A2 colon, not a semicolon, or sorry, not a semicolon, but a hard colon up to A17. And then the highest, the maximum value will be 94 for that first one. And we can repeat it across the other ones. Okay, I think that's going to be it for this first recording. So that's some basics using Excel. All right, we'll get into the project more specifically in the next recording.